Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I want to tell you a little bit of a story about myself, and about how I've struggled with self-worth, and how I've tried so hard to be something, and to be something specific, instead of being myself. Um, I, for many reasons that we won't go into right now, going back to childhood, because that's where that shit always starts. For a lot of reasons, I've never felt that I'm good enough. The mail just came. I just heard. Did you hear that noise? That was the mail. So 4 years ago, I left my arts company job because I decided I wanted to help people. And the way I wanted to do this was to become a hypnotherapist. So I took my accreditation, and then I decided I was going to work from home, and I was going to be a hypnotherapist. But when I left, all of a sudden, I couldn't step into that hypnotherapist thing. I was paralyzed. I was all of a sudden facing a barrage of things that told me that I was not good enough, and I wasn't someone. What right did I have to even approach this type of work? And who the fuck do I think I am? And so I just struggled, and I struggled deeply. It threw me into the deep end and asked me to confront the things that were stopping me. There were a lot of factors that have aided in my not feeling like what I am, who I am at my core, is good enough to be offering hypnosis and help to people. There's a few factors that really reinforced this narrative. One of them being a friend of mine who we were often like polar opposites. He ended up studying hypnosis and NLP independently of myself, but like we kind of did it at the same time. And we're like, oh, you're doing this too, ah ha 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 ha, ah. And it made sense to me because, again, we're usually like same but different. And he has a very rigid, structured way of approaching things, and he wants things to follow like a procedure constantly, whereas I'm like, let's see where this takes us. And because of something within my upbringing, I often felt like my let's just go with it approach wasn't good enough. And so I often would kind of let said friend drive the narrative forward and like kind of be like, oh, but you should be doing this, and sort of measure my worth by the way that he looked at the world. And there's nothing wrong with the way that he approaches things. Let me be clear. But they're not my way. And I often felt inadequate. And in some of his actions, he would sort of reinforce that. He'd pit some of my friends and I against each other and kind of play favorites. We were all kind of in like a metaphysical group. And then he'd sort of say, oh, I don't want to work with this person because I don't think they're where they need to be. So I basically kept him in my life to reinforce this inadequacy, because I wanted to constantly either get his approval or be told that I wasn't doing enough, which is balls. But I kept him in my life so that I could reinforce this narrative of being not worthy. And I had this very profound experience of absolute clarity, but I couldn't put it into words, like about 2 years ago. And because I couldn't show my work, he absolutely dismissed what I have to offer. And at the time, I really struggled with that. It was so frustrating. But honestly, you can't show your work to anybody. You can't prove to anybody else except you that you've done the thing. And I know that I have done the work. The work to be where I am now. And I don't have to prove that to anyone. But I had him in my life to make me constantly feel bad. Like I wasn't getting anything positive out of this relationship anymore, but I was getting this this beautiful feedback loop that I was just feeding off of to keep me feeling like shit. And at the same time, I decided that, well, I needed to get a part-time job because I wasn't taking clients, because I was terrified to take clients. And so I ended up working in a wellness clinic. And this wellness clinic reinforced for me, I chose something that was, again, the opposite of who I was at my core, but what I thought I needed to be in order to be a hypnotherapist. So this place had a very specific aesthetic, and it was very polished, and it wasn't ever really down to earth and fun. The fun was not there. When I was interviewed for the job, and it was client care, I never was a therapist there. Let me stress this. It was client care. There was kind of an idea that maybe I would come on as like a part-time therapist there, but I never did, and it's good because it wasn't a good fit. But this place, they asked us all a question, what would your superpower be? And my answer was that my superpower is joy and laughter. I can just bring whimsy to situations. And this is what I used to do in the arts company. Like, I was just, this was me in my absolute reveling in the power of what it is to be in the Jacqueline experience. And I put that down, and then it was never valued there. Client care had to be all business all the time. And that's well and good for like some things. It just wasn't right for me. And so I was always conflicted. Like, we weren't really allowed to talk to each other up front, nor were we allowed to giggle. And I just want to have fun. I want to, if I'm in a situation where I'm working part-time and interacting with people, I just want to be able to laugh with them and to just like tease each other and just to have a good time and joke about shit. And fortunately, I'm in a part-time gig right now where that is so what we do, and so the camaraderie I was so craving back then. But here's this wellness clinic that is a very specific thing, and I'm not that thing. And so I feel like, again, this was this subconscious reinforcement of what I have to offer doesn't fit this thing that I want to do. So if I want to do this thing, I need to be a certain way, but I can't get my dick up to be that thing, because it was inauthentic. I wasn't capable of doing that. And so fortunately, I wouldn't take on clients if I was going to be inauthentic. And so I just was paralyzed. I just felt like I wasn't worthy of taking on clients. And it was just this constant, like, reinforced from all sides, awful thing. Finally, I left that client care position because there was a lot of details that pushed me to this point to be like, oh, no, this is about worth. And this is about knowing what I'm worth. And so I drew a line. I drew a very strong boundary and said, I'm not going to take being treated this way. This is where I walk. Because it became a toxic situation for me, and I couldn't be there anymore. I had to put myself first, and I did that thing, and I was better for it. And I thought that was all it was, but then this past week I realized, oh God, it was all about reinforcing that narrative of just not being the hypnotherapist that I needed to be. I'm silly. Listen to me talk. I'm fucking silly all the time. And if you're not on board with that silliness, then like, we're not a good fit. And I've come to this point where I'm finally getting back to loving that silliness. I hate to say this out loud, but it is true. For the last 4 years, I haven't loved that silliness. And that may sound absolutely stupid. But it is so true. I threw what makes me uniquely me out to the wolves and disconnected myself from it for 4 fucking years because I felt like I couldn't be that. There were tiny situations where I was that, and like I have what's in my bath, and that was part of living that thing. That's me. That what's in my bath is me, just being me and reveling in it. But over the last 4 years, what's in my bath was the only time that I'd allow myself to revel in it. Up until I felt like I had to be something to be a hypnotherapist. I was ridiculous all the fucking time. I may have still struggled with self-worth, and in fact I absolutely did, but I still was able to find these places and these times to just be quintessentially me. I was ridiculous. I reveled in that ridiculousness. I used to, at the arts company on Fridays, just to fucking fuck with everybody, I'd bring in my ukulele and I'd play Rebecca Black's Friday just as a shtick. We had fun. My going away party when I left that company, they threw me the most ridiculous shit. They dressed up, 3 of them dressed up as like rappers and sang me a song. It was like this madness was something that I had inspired, and it told me so much about where my true gifts lie. And then I left and I was like, well, fuck this. But like, and up until then I had done crazy shit all the time. My best friend and I had a spoken word band about Canadian celebrity that was big in Belgium. We had a party called Butterman where we sculpted a man made out of butter every year, and we melted him while we sang songs from the 90s. This was shit that I reveled in and I wanted to tell people about. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we don't talk about this anymore because we have to be a practitioner. And it fucked me up. Telling you this in this video right now is really making it come full circle. And like, so I work at another arts company part-time in their ticketing services department right now. And I love them. I love them so much. And often we sometimes get on the subject of like Jacqueline's weird shit that she did. And I'll talk about it. And I feel that like spark of excitement. And I'm like, oh God, I used to love this. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it gone? And it just hasn't been in me for the past 4 years because I thought that it wasn't good enough. This thing that I loved, this aspect of me that is so quintessentially me, I said I can't have it anymore because it makes me not be a real practitioner. And I want you to know something. I don't make these videos to help other people. I know that sounds like, whoa, what the fuck, girl? What the fuck? What am I here for? I think the helping people is a beautiful ripple effect of making these videos, and I think it's amazing. But just like with hypnosis and what I've come to understand about this hypnosis thing, I am not in it to help people. I'm in it because it's something that I enjoy. And selfishness gets such a bad rap because we just think of it in terms of like, oh, well, you're just doing shit for you. You don't have any concern about other people. Selfishness, I think, if we expand our understanding of what selfishness is and putting yourself first is, we'll come to see that it's actually feeding yourself, making sure that you are nurtured and you have the things that you need so that then you can take that step out further and end up helping people. But if that's your sole intention, it ain't gonna do shit. I left the arts company and I was going to quote unquote help people, but I'm sure that I have. I'm sure that I actually have helped people, but not because it was my primary drive. I've helped people because I've helped myself. I've helped people because I've done my own work. And I've said, well, bitch ain't happy, so we gotta do something about that. And so I've untangled every narrative that has presented itself to me that I was running. I've untangled and continue to untangle the things that paralyze me so that I can come here and I can make a video, or I can go to a session with a client and I can share with them my own experience of how this has gone down for me, and maybe that helps them. But it is by stepping into what is my actual me-ness, that's where the true power comes from. Putting myself first. So I tell you this story today because I want you to consider, what are those things that are so beautifully you, those things that inspire you, the things that you love, and the things that make you feel excitement. What are those things? Because those things tell you exactly where you need to be focusing. They tell you what it is at your core of your being, that who you are, whatever it is to be the experience of you as a person, that excitement tells you what that is. And the more you're able to follow that and step into that excitement, the happier you'll be, because you're putting yourself first and you're putting that flutter of happiness first. And from there, you might end up helping people because you're fed from the inside. So I feel like with these videos, it's always just me it's basically me just beating on a pot, being like, love yourself. I've upset the cat. Sorry, Athena. Love yourself. It's time to do the thing. No, but really, if this is what reminds you that you need to put yourself first, is this video of this fucking asshole on the internet being like, do the thing, only you can do it. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can put yourself first. The cat is so mad at me. If that's what is going to tell you to do the thing and start following that excitement, then that's fucking awesome. Then I've done my job. I've helped you by fucking beating on a pan on the internet because I thought it would be fun. Do you see my point? I think I made this video just so I could justify this.